Okay, so we're going to talk about Laci and Scott Peterson. Did everyone watch this on Netflix? It's a really good... I know, Kirsty. I know I'm not. And it makes it better to feel live, but just, sometimes when I'm in the evening, I started to read books again. And then, last night, I sit there and I think, I'm reading the Housemaid series by Frida. And I literally sat there and thought, I can either go live or I can just read. And I just read till I cried. It's just such a loser at the moment. But I'll come out of it at some point. So, Laci Peterson. Now, this woman here is Laci Peterson. Her name was Laci Denise Rocher at birth, and she was born on May the 4th, 1975 in California. She was a daughter of Dennis and Sharon and had an older brother, Brent, who was 4 years her senior, and she was very close with him. In the early years, the Rocher family lived on a dairy farm in Escalon in California, where Laci and her brother enjoyed helping their parents on the farm. Before she turned 10, the family got divorced, and both parents really did it amicably. They absolutely stayed friends. They did everything right. They did perfect parenting, to be fair. A lot of us wish we could have that. And Sharon moved with her children to Modesto, where the children spent weekends on the farm with their father, and then they would live with their mum full time. Now, Sharon remarried a man named Ron Gransky, who she had 2 more children with, and we know that Laci and her brother, Brent, absolutely considered Ron a second father. They loved this man, and you'll see Ron in loads of these documentaries. He considered Laci his daughter, and that's not to take away from her real father. It's like she had 2 dads, full-time dads. Now, Laci was known for being outgoing. She was beautiful. She's model looking, and she absolutely excelled at high school. She went on to the California Polytechnic State University, majoring in ornamental horticulture, and this was because she had a passion for gardening. Now, during her early university years, Laci often visited a restaurant in Morro Bay called the Pacific Cafe to see a friend who worked there as a waitress. That friend had a co-worker. Oh, thank you, Leslie, you're level 35. That friend had a co-worker whose name was Scott Peterson, who caught Laci's eye. Everyone says the first time she saw him, Laci was smitten with Scott. Absolutely loved Scott. And she actually wasn't the type of girl to approach a man, but in this instance she did. She gave him her phone number. And later on that day, she told her mother, I met my future husband. And when we see all this stuff, thank you, Claire, when we see how Laci viewed Scott, it's so upsetting to know that she thought she had met everything in that moment. She thought she had this really good looking man. He was an amazing father. He was an amazing husband. He got on with her family. She really thought he was her forever. Laci and Scott started dating, and hey, Chatbox Cows, he seemed like the perfect man. He love bombed the hell out of her, let's be honest, when we see it now. And I always wonder, what is the difference between actually somebody just being nice and sending you flowers and being lovely, and someone love bombing you? And is it only I always wonder, is it because now we know how toxic it got with murder that we consider it love bombing? Because at the time, actually, Laci loved it. She thought he was so attentive and always knew when she was having a down day. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Karen. So let's talk a bit about Scott and his beginnings. Scott Lee Peterson was born in San Diego, California on October the 24th, 1972. The only child of Lee and Jackie Peterson. He was a single child. And it is known that his parents had children from previous relationships. They all got on well, but Scott would view himself as an only child. Scott grew up in a suburb of San Diego and was a model student, as well as an avid golfer, a career he hoped to pursue. He hoped to become a professional golfer. Now, after graduating from high school, he spent a semester at Arizona State University before returning home to go to a local college. In 1994, he enrolled in Polytechnic State University and majored in agricultural business. Now, Scott balanced his studies with this job at the Morro Bay, the place where he'd gone to meet Laci. Hey, few balloons. Now, thank you, Mel. These two had kind of like an idyllic relationship. They got together in university. They were each other's first in loads of different ways. Thank you, Mel. And they waited for exactly a year. They'd been together like a year. Then they moved in together. On the year anniversary, they moved in together. and on the exact day they graduated from university, they got married. So it was almost like they were on this timeline of perfection. And everyone said Laci was glowing that day. She was so happy. And around this time, Scott gave up his dream of becoming a professional golfer because he wanted to get a more secure job. And we think this is maybe a little bit influenced by both the parents of both Laci and Scott, who were kind of saying, come on, a professional golfer. And it is kind of like a little bit like, a boy in this country saying, I want to grow up and be in the Premier League. Yes, that's brilliant for about 1% of them, but most people are not going to make it. And the families wanted, before Laci had children or whatever, for him to be more secure financially. So everybody felt envious of Laci and Scott. They seemed to have this amazing relationship. Laci was so happy, and he seemed to they were like the yin and yang to each other. However, what no one knew was, even before this all happened, Scott had had many affairs. Even back at university, he was seeing 2 different girls. And Laci didn't know any of this. Thank you, Mel. And one thing we'll see with Scott is, even when he's dating somebody behind his girlfriend or wife's back, he's all in. He's like, flowers, cards, let's go Christmas party, let's do this. He just acts like the other side of his life doesn't even exist. After graduating from university, Laci and Scott opened a burger restaurant in San Luis Obispo, I think it's called The Shack. The business did amazingly well, and I never knew they had a burger joint together. Their business brought in money. It was doing so well. Thank you, G. Thank you, Karen. Their business did extremely well, but they decided to close it in 2000 in October because they decided to move to Modesto to be closer to Laci's family, because they wanted to start having a family. Once in Modesto, Scott began working for a fertilizer company, and Laci began a job as a substitute teacher. That's why I'm researching it, Mel. Literally, I always love little things I find that don't make it into documentaries and stuff, and I always think that's why I don't just watch Netflix and tell you a case, because there's loads of it I just wouldn't know, which I think I never knew. And I've literally read books about this case. I've watched YouTube. I've never heard they had a burger shack. Now, according to her mother, Laci was very much in love. And Laci really wanted to be a really perfect housewife. She couldn't wait to have their little garden and be gardening and making food and all of those things. She was really excited to be Scott's wife. She loved being a teacher as well. She even though she hadn't gone to uni for that, she found being a substitute teacher really, really suited her. Thanks, Mel. During that time, we know that Laci was in constant contact with friends and family, and people always said that Scott was a little bit of an introvert. He was an introvert, and there's a really good Netflix on it as well, Bunches of Forever. There's one that was released last year that's really worth watching. Laci was really outgoing. She would always plan everything. She would always have everyone to their home. She would have cheese and wine parties. She would have all of it. Scott was introvert. He never seemed to really want to get involved, and Laci was always saying, come and say hi to everyone. Come and say hi to everyone. And a couple of their friends did say as an afterthought, Laci Peterson, a couple of their friends said as an afterthought, maybe it seemed like he didn't want us around, but they just thought at the time he just wasn't as kind of interactive, I guess, and kind of outgoing as Laci was. Now, one of Laci's absolute dreams was to become a mother. Which I've read in a lot of places, people say that she never got to do. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Jim. I disagree. She was late into pregnancy, and I believe she already loved Connor. She'd already picked out a name. She'd already sang him to sleep. She'd already kept herself healthy. And I definitely think, wherever they are, they've been reunited, and she is a mother. It was a lifelong dream, was to become a mother, and I'd like, 100%, because I'd like to think that wherever she is a mum. Now, when Laci started bringing up this thing to Scott that she wanted to become a mother, he didn't want to have children, and he said to her, I that's not what I want. Eventually, he changed his mind and said, if that's what you want, we can have one. So he kind of said, look, if you want to have a kid, we can. It's just not something that I planned for. And this is something that is heavily used against him as evidence in the courtroom, that they were kind of saying they didn't want to have children. But I think a lot of people originally don't want to have children. I wouldn't say this is evidence. Yes, it shows maybe he wasn't ready. Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you for everyone for help with the gift goal. Thank you so much. So in May of 2002, the couple announced they were expecting a boy and they planned to name Connor. The due date was set for February of 2003, but that moment would never come. Thank you, Andrea. So I'm going to switch to a picture of Laci pregnant now, which I'll have to change the photo layout. And can someone ask me why I chose to buy rhubarb flavoured vape juice? This is how I know I'm having a mental health breakdown. I bought rhubarb flavour. Never eaten rhubarb in my fucking life, don't know why. So let's get into the disappearance of Laci. I don't know, Julie, what's going on. I'm literally looking at rhubarb. Not had that one before. I know, Mel, literally. So on the afternoon of December the 24th, so Christmas Eve, right? Laci is really excited. She is heavily pregnant, 8 months pregnant. She is excited, and she knows this is her last, Christmas before she becomes a mum. She can't wait to be a mum. She's so excited. And so she has this, she's bringing Megan's here. Hey, Megan, are you okay? She's bringing food to her parents' home. And, she's really excited. She's phoning her mum, what do you want me to bring? What should I pick up? And all of these things. And she just can't wait. So on the afternoon of December the 24th, 2002, Laci calls, thank you, Nat, for the rose. Scott calls Laci's family, sorry, thank you, Claire, to say, is Laci with you? Now, he says that morning he planned to go golfing, but when he returned, there was no trace of his wife. And he says, to make matters worse, one of the neighbours has just brought our dog home, Mackenzie, and the dog was just running around the neighbourhood with its leash still on. Now, this instant... Caught my phone. That was good. So I literally caught it as it fell, sorry. I have to be impressed by small things today. So the family instantly know this is a problem. Now you hear that an 8-month pregnant woman's gone missing. Yes, she could just be at the store getting last minute bits for Christmas, but then when you find out the dog with the leash still attached, obviously she's on a walk with the dog, is roaming the neighbourhood, this becomes instant that something has happened. Now Ron, her stepfather, says to Scott, I'm phoning the police. And Scott goes, well, we should wait for a little bit. And he's like, no, I'm phoning the police. Thank you, Jem. Now, several officers go to the Petersons' home and discover that Laci has left her purse with her ID and her keys in a closet. This, with the added detail of a loose dog, suggests that Laci has gone out for a walk and that something bad has happened to her during this outing. Now, Scott, obviously being the husband, and we know what happens in these cases, right? It's most likely to be your other half. Okay, so they take him in for questioning. They want to get his day, his timeline all set up. Now, the police say that instantly Scott lets off a lot of alarm bells. There's loads of red flags. To begin with, Scott sits with his hands in his pocket the whole time and appears cold, calm, too calm and arrogant. He's not overly upset, and police have to keep saying to him, Scott, your wife's 8 months pregnant, she's missing. And they really think in the beginning, the detectives, maybe he's in shock. So they're trying to get him to come round from the shock so that he can actually help them. So they're saying, Scott, it's been hours. Where's she gone? Now, he initially states he'd gone golfing that morning. And he admits the fact that actually he's been out on the marina or on his fishing boat. Now, the police are kind of saying to him at this point, who did you go golfing with? Can anyone confirm it? What club were you golfing at? We need to get the details so we can check your alibi. And at that point he goes, oh no, actually I went fishing today. Due to the bad weather, I decided to go to the Berkeley Marina to try out a new boat I'd bought on December the 9th. And the police are like, what? So it's so bad you don't want to go golfing, but you think going out on the water is a better idea in this bad weather. Now, the boat purchased on the 9th of December, none of his family nor Laci knew about the boat. Now, when you buy a new boat on the 9th and then you're out in the water, that's a massive red flag, right? This is a man who loved going out on the water. You're going to be boasting if you got a new boat. You're going to be asking Laci's brother if she wants to go out on the water. You're definitely going to have told Laci, who's just about to have a baby. Now, the location he's saying that he's gone fishing, thank you, Megan, so much. The location he is saying that he went fishing at is about an hour and a half from his home. Oh, thanks, Meg. And they're like, why would you go so far, an hour and a half from your home, to test a boat when you have a lot of waterways right near your house? But we're talking about Modesto. Now, he says he last saw Laci at home around 9 a.m. when she was watching a cooking show, and that she planned to bake cookies, run some errands and walk the dog that day. Now, after spending the day on his boat, Scott calls Laci and he leaves a voicemail saying, hey, beautiful, it's 2:15, I'm just leaving Berkeley, be home soon. Now, Scott says then when he's gone out to test this boat on this waterway miles from his home, thank you, Megan, he then arrives home. He sees Laci's car parked outside. There's no sign of her or the dog. So he takes a shower. He does a load of laundry with the clothes he'd worn that day, puts them straight in the wash. He eats pizza with a glass of milk. And then it's only hours later he thinks, well, I better phone and see where Laci is. Now, a lot of people have reacted to this because Laci was supposed to be at home, right? And you would think even after an hour, you'd be like phoning her, like, where are you, babe? Also, she's 8 months pregnant. It's your first pregnancy together. There is a chance she's gone into labour somewhere. You know, it's not like her to be away from home. Also, the dog's missing. So you assume at this time she's gone on a dog walk that's hours long because you've got home, the dog's not there, and Laci's not there. So it seems a bit weird that you've kind of voice noted a voicemail to say, oh, I'm leaving the marina now. But then you don't follow up when you get home and she's gone. So searches around the neighbourhood start that evening, and they focus all around the neighbourhood where Laci lives because the dog has come back and it's likely she was out walking the dog. Thank you, Chai. Thank you, Julian. So the family believe at this point, and I'll tell you from the beginning, the family do... thank you, Lulu. Thank you, Julian. What a beautiful gift. Thank you, Lulu. I love butterflies. So the family do not suspect Scott at this time, right? They have always thought up to this point that Scott was a really good husband to their daughter. They all think that Laci walking the dog must have had an accident, gone into labour, fallen down some embankment. Hey, Roxy, how are you? Not seen you for a while. Are you okay? So they all start thinking that, you know, this is what's happened. She's fallen down. The dog's returned. Now, Sharon, who is Laci's mum, she says things started to change around this time. So in one of the searches in the neighbourhood, she saw Scott looking off in a weird direction, and she's calling his name and he just ignores her. Then he kind of like looks at her and just walks off, and she thinks, why can't he face me? And at the time, she is grieving so badly, like for her daughter she can't find. She's thinking like, not grieving like as in death, but like grieving like I don't know where she is, that she thinks maybe he's consumed by it as well. And she tells herself like, this is his wife and his baby that's missing. So she kind of like gives him some leeway. Now, she says now, and she spoke about on Netflix because I have watched that, and she says like it become apparent that he was keeping his distance after a while, especially from her and Ron, almost like he didn't want to face her. Now, on December 25th, Modesto police and firefighters expanded their search using many more resources. They get helicopters, they get mounted units, bicycle patrols, and they get water teams in rafts out on the water. There are a total of 30 officers working Christmas Day, not with their families, along with Laci's family, volunteers, and loads of neighbours, but yet there is no sign of her anywhere. Now, we will note at this point that the police have done a forensic examination of the Peterson home, and they find no sign at that point of any foul play or forced entry. Now at this point they're not getting like proper forensics teams in, but they're looking for any kind of blood, any kind of struggle, and they say there isn't any at that point. Now, one detail that didn't escape them when they looked into the family computer was that Scott's history shows that he had checked the currents at the Berkeley Marina instead of the weather. Now, this means that he's not checking the weather for storms, he's just checking where the water, kind of like which way the water current is going, i.e. where will something end up. And it doesn't seem like most of the time when you're just like, you're not even a captain of a ship, you literally go out there for fun on your boat, you're more likely to want to know the weather. Like, am I going to get into any trouble? Is what's going to happen out there? The next search, the place they search is the warehouse where Scott kept his boat. And what they find there is really interesting. First there was his fishing licence, which was issued on December the 20th with an unused hook that's purchased the same day. Additionally, they find an anchor without a rope, a tarp, several umbrellas and a pair of pliers with the long black hair in them. After comparing it to Laci's hair, it is found that the hair that is tightly wound around those pliers belongs to Laci Peterson. And this doesn't make sense. Like, these are your fishing pliers, they're kept outside of your house or in your boat. Why would they be Laci's hair in them? Also, they find these like pots where he's making his own heavy anchors, like these cement anchors. Like, you know, P. Diddy's just joined the live. No, P. Diddy, this is not the live for you. Goodbye. So this case blows up in the media. Cement weights, yeah. This case blows up in the media. We have this beautiful first-time mum, pregnant as well, so the panic is up, high risk, you know. Then we have this husband that's not quite connecting. Interviews with him are quite awkward. He's very Chris Watts-like in his interviews. I think he's a little bit smirky and not really panicked, not knowing what to say. Now, on day 3 of the search, they have more than 1,500 people sign up for this volunteer search because it's so high profile, it's all over the media. Everyone wants to bring Laci home. Thank you, Claire. Now, then they set up a volunteer command centre because there's so many people, and they put in blue and yellow ribbons everywhere. Yellow for Laci, blue for baby Connor, who's obviously she's 8 months pregnant with. And Laci's friends and families put all their efforts into finding her. The parents are answering phone calls about tips. They're out walking everywhere. The one person that's not really doing a lot is Scott. He doesn't want to speak to the media. He won't have his picture taken. And he's telling the media, like, stop taking pictures of me. This is about my wife, not me. I don't want to be in the media. Now, then on December the 30th, officers receive a call that changes everything. And here we enter Amber Fry. On December the 30th, a woman from Fresno named Amber Fry contacts police handling the case to say, I'm Scott Peterson's girlfriend. Amber, who's 28 and a mother of a young daughter and a massage therapist by profession, told them that a friend had introduced her to Scott in November of 2002 and they started a relationship and it's serious. Scott had told her all along that he wasn't married, until one of his friends, the friends they had in common, learned out this wasn't true and told Amber, like, he's married. Feeling deceived, Amber confronts Scott to find out the truth, and he tells her something that leaves her shocked. So on December the 9th, the same day he bought the boat, by the way, he confessed to Amber that he had been married, but this was the first Christmas without his late wife, who's died. And this is on the 9th. She doesn't go missing till the 24th. And he tells her, like, I don't really want to talk about Laci. This is my first Christmas without her. Like, it's such a painful experience for me. That's why I've not mentioned her, because she's dead. So Amber kind of believes him and continues their relationship. The couple speak on the phone every day. They see each other all the time. And he even spent the 23rd at a Christmas party with Amber and her daughter, playing Happy Families. Amber shows the officers several pictures of herself with Scott, including ones at Christmas parties they've been at, shortly before Laci disappears. And this is one of them here of, this was just like a day before Laci went missing. And I have to tell you, like, Amber Fry, to me, yes, she was conned. I don't like this woman. I'm not even going to hide it. I feel that she's had no sympathy for Laci. I feel like she Googled at one point, like, how can I make money out of this situation? She wanted to write a book. She's constantly done interviews. She hasn't had any kind of, Yeah, I just think in most of these cases, like where I see these things, I kind of feel like, well, she never knew. I don't like homewreckers. I don't like women like that anyway. But after the fact that you found out, and she does find out again, right? Because she sees Scott all over the papers. His wife is missing, and she's like, oh my God, he's got a wife. But the stuff that she searched afterwards, like how much can I make in a book deal? How much money can I make from this? No girl code disciple. But, you know, Laci was gone at this point, and her family, Kirsty... She reminds me a lot of Chris Watts's mistress, who I believe helped him kill his children. And I believe, like, isn't it weird how he tells you his wife's dead on the 9th, then he buys a boat and starts planning to kill his wife. I just don't think she's very sympathetic to the whole situation. I also feel like when you're in newspapers and that, and you're like, yeah, I was at a Christmas party with Scott, and you know Laci's mum and dad are watching that, desperate to find their daughter and grandson's body, and you're like, well, I didn't even know she, and it's all like the makeup and the dress, and it's just kind of like, fucking hell, do you know what I mean? Regardless, even if you didn't know, or you say you didn't know, the guilt that I would feel looking at Laci's picture and knowing, like, oh my God, I've had an affair with this man, and now he's taken out, like, there should be something there of just like, oh my God, like, I hope this isn't my fault, I hope I didn't make this, you know. But there was just nothing. And then trying to make money out of it, just, I'm going to take off screen, I'm going to put Laci out, because I'm not, I just feel like she's not a very sympathetic character in the whole thing. So the day of the Christmas party, Laci believed her husband was away on a business, so Laci that day went to a Christmas party all by herself. Well, Scott was with Amber Fry. And this picture actually breaks my heart, and I know I cry at everything at the moment. This was a picture at Laci at the same day at a Christmas party, where she was all by herself because she thought Scott was at work. And it was a couple's Christmas party with all her friends from university, and she was the only one there alone. And she was like, oh, he's working really hard because he's putting money away for the baby. And the whole time he's there with Amber Fry at this other party. And this would be the last time that her friends and family would ever see her, was at that party she was at by herself. Now, convinced that Scott now has been trying to get rid of his wife since the 9th, the officers began recording all of his phone calls and asked Amber to keep talking to him to see if he'll reveal where Laci's body is. She is radiant, isn't she? She's such a beautiful woman. This picture here, I love it. Like, she would have been such an amazing mum, and I'm sure she is in heaven. She is one of those women who is so strikingly beautiful, but at the same time is so like girl next door, where you could just tell she'd be lovely to everybody, that she hasn't got a bad bone in her body, and every photo you see of her, she's just smiling. So the conversations with Scott continue without him knowing he's been recorded, and for some reason he doesn't realise that Amber now knows that he has a missing wife who's gone missing on Christmas Eve, and he's all over the newspapers worldwide. But he thinks for some reason Amber Fry doesn't know this. So even on New Year, while he's at a candlelit vigil to bring home Laci and Connor, he's on the phone to Amber saying, I'm in Paris for New Year's Eve. That's why I can't talk to you right now. Can you hear all that noise? It's the fireworks. But he's actually stood at a vigil that she's watching on the TV. Like, he's just an idiot, this man. The Petersons supported their son without questioning anything. So they, and to this day they do, right? So on the day that Laci went missing, I love you, Team Jesus. I was so surprised. You were in the box the other day, and I heard your voice for the first time, and you were not what I was expecting. I don't know why. I didn't expect you just to have a really normal voice. I thought it was going to be heavenly. Oh God, it literally. They said, right, there was a burglary. So we know there was a burglary, yeah? There was a burglary across the road from Laci. 2 men commit the burglary. And so the Petersons to this day say the men that burgled the house killed Laci in the back of the van that they used to fill up with the neighbour's stuff. Now, to going off of this means a woman who's like 5 foot tall, who was 8 months pregnant, saw a house being burgled, and instead of calling the police, she decided to go over there and confront armed burglars. Now, Laci loved her baby. She loved Connor. She was not going to go over there and try and stop a burglary from happening. She's just not going to. If I saw now someone trying to burgle my neighbours over the road, I would phone the police, but I ain't going out there. I ain't, because I've got 2 kids in the house. One of my kids is out. I have got 3 kids. But I've got 2 little ones in bed. So I ain't going over there going, oh, you put that TV back down. Like, no, I'll phone the police. Of course I will. I'll give a witness testimony or whatever I need to do. But I ain't confronting two men with a van. I'm just not. Especially in America where they've got guns. Like, Laci was out walking the dog apparently at the time, decided to confront the two burglars. Thank you, G. Thank you everyone for helping with the gift girl. Decided to confront the burglars, and then they've killed her, put her in the back of the van. And this is what the Innocence Project is saying now, that actually they can prove the van was burnt afterwards, all of this stuff. We'll get into that in a minute. And this is what the Peterson family have always said, Scott's parents. No, she's confronted this burglar and they've taken her life. Now, at this point, thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone, for helping with the gift girl. At this point, Scott's family, not Scott's family, thank you, Ali. Laci's family are starting to doubt Scott. They are seeing some really weird stuff here, and now they know about the affair with Amber because the police have told them. And Laci's mum and her stepdad and her dad are fuming because they're like, she was pregnant, she was about to have his baby, thank you. And they realise that after they know, thank you everyone, after they know about his affair with Amber Fry, they cut him off. They're like, no, you're not right. Something's happened here. I'm good, thank you, Originality. So Amber's emergence in this case actually really causes issues in the media. Now, Amber doesn't come across well, like I just said. So there's a lot of hatred towards her online, which I kind of understand. But the person who's really responsible here is Scott, right? Now, investigators in this case say to Amber Fry that she should hold a press conference to stop the public from going to her. And they advise her that it's time to publicly speak to everyone because it would be better than the public just kind of reading into it. Let me have a look if I can find a part of it. How long is it? I'll play a little bit, but I'm not going to play all of it, so I'll get in trouble on TikTok. Thank you, guys.
Further.
Sorry, my phone's really dirty. My daughter's playing Care Bears all afternoon. Don't judge me.
I am very sorry for Laci's family and the pain that this has caused them. And I pray for her safe return as well. I would appreciate to my friends and acquaintances to refrain from talking about me to the media for profit or recognition. I am a single mother of a 23-month-old child, and I ask to respect my privacy. Thank you.
I don't think it came across particularly well, and honestly then she went on to do a lot of high profile interviews that she got paid for. So you know, she spoke to a lot of people, she went on to a lot of things. You can find interview after interview of Amber Fry, booked here, like even then, like, please don't speak about me, please don't make money off of me, please don't speak to the press about me. Like, no one's really that bothered about you at this point. Amber Fry, there's a pregnant woman who's missing. Let me see if I can find this one here. I want to find this one. I know what I'm looking for. It was you.
Back to me. And I know that the suspicion has turned to me.
This is his first interview.
It's turned to me, one, because I'm her husband, and that's a natural thing, and I've heard all the statistics on all the news shows about that being, you know, someone that a husband, ex-husband, a boyfriend, that is statistically the one who would be responsible for her disappearance. And I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
Did you ever hit her? Did you ever injure her?
No, never. I was answering your question because of the suspicion that it's been turned to me. And it turned to me because of the inappropriate romantic that I had with Amber Fry.
Amber Fry went public about the romance after seeing all the...
That Laci disappeared. She didn't know about it at that point. And then she contacted the police.
But Fry says she first found out about Laci from the news, not from Scott. Were you in love with her?
No.
Was this the first time? Are there others out there?
No.
Wow.
There's no one else who can come forward?
No. I owe a tremendous apology to everyone.
Had you told anyone? Did you tell police?
Told the police immediately.
When?
No, you didn't.
That was the first night we were together. The police, I spent with the police.
You told them
The
about
police,
her?
the police found out from Amber Fry. They didn't find out from Scott Peterson.
Murdered, it's a nightmare.
They didn't find out from Scott Peterson. I can't play the whole one, but you can watch the whole interview. But the whole interview is kind of like that. I thought at first he was like drunk, like he had drunk something because he was just like. But he doesn't come across very well at all in those interviews. Thank you, Sam, so much. Thank you, everyone, for help with the gift card, by the way. If I've not said thank you to people while I've been talking, it's because obviously the case, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Let's put up a picture of Laci again. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. She's so beautiful, isn't she? She's absolutely a stunning girl. Like, didn't wear a lot of makeup, none of that, but she was absolutely such a beautiful girl. Right, so where was I? Back up my notes, tapping on thing above. Right. So Amber coming out in the case obviously does completely change the case, and it gives people even more kind of ammunition towards Scott. Now he's telling Amber, my wife's already dead, and he's also telling her that he loves her and he wants to move in with her. So the police put one and one together and get two. Like, he wants rid of Laci because he can't have both, right? So Scott watched a press conference with Amber Fry the day that she comes out and says all this stuff. And then he acts like nothing's happened. And he's got the media outside his house saying, what do you want to respond? Thanks, Sam. What do you want to respond to Amber Fry? And he's like, I don't. Now, Amber's statement prompts two other women to come forward and tell officers when they were in college and university, Scott, who was already married at that time, had dated them. And they didn't know about Laci. Now, the bad publicity led Scott to give several media interviews, which only made him look worse. In the following weeks, the search focused on the waters of the Berkeley Marina, which is where Scott went out that day. And then they suddenly make a discovery. A sonar detects what appears to be a body. However, when the divers go down, they just found an anchor that's been made. Scott's mum informs her son of this development, leaving a message on Scott's answer phone. And Scott, unaware that he is being listened to by investigators, lets out a sigh of relief that they haven't found a body, just an anchor. Now, this seems weird to police because your wife has been missing now for over a month and you are looking to find out what's happened to her, right? So you honestly want her body to be found at this point. She's not coming home. Like, it's been over a month, nearly two. And you're kind of like, oh, it's just an anchor. Everything changes on April the 13th, the day a couple walking their dog discover a lifeless male fetus on the swampy shore of San Francisco Bay. It is the body of a baby. The location is very close to where Scott went out on the water on his boat that day. Just 24 hours later, they find the decomposed torso that is wearing a maternity dress. On April the 18th, it's confirmed that the torso and the baby are the bodies of Laci and Connor Peterson. I do have a picture here, a map that just shows you where they were both found in connection with each other, because I think it's kind of, you need to see the map to understand where both are found. So the male fetus, or the baby's body, but obviously for court terms they would say male fetus because he's an unborn baby, is found here, up this point here where the pen is, and Laci's found just down from the baby. We know that Laci is found on this rock here, and it's all blocked out, but I just want to show you where the body is found. So we've got, we know that certain parts of the body are not still together at this point, and the baby is found here underneath this layer here. And at this point, it is then confirmed that it is Laci and baby Connor. And obviously they're found not far from where Scott would have been out on his boat that day. The same day Scott flees, right? And Scott, who says he's not guilty, is found 45 kilometers away, rushing towards the Mexican border. He has dyed his hair ginger. He's dyed his hair ginger, and he says he's on his way to meet family to play golf. But the truth is, he's changed his appearance. He's found with everything you would need to start a new life. $15,000 in cash, credit cards, and Viagra pills. He also has 4 mobile phones, camping equipment, and other things with him. Now, apparently he's just going to play golf, and who doesn't need Viagra to play golf? Here's Simon talking Viagra. How are you, Simon? So $15,000 in cash, credit cards with money on, Viagra pills, 4 mobile phones, camping equipment, and among other things. And he's fleeing towards the Mexican border. Simon didn't even say hello. I think he fled. Sorry, Simon. So on the 21st, Scott is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances. Sorry, Simon. And he pleaded not guilty to all charges. Now, I don't understand all these people, because there is a whole group of people that say that Scott Peterson is not guilty. There is so much evidence. I know, he literally blue pills, and he literally thought that's what you need, right? When your wife's just been found and the body of your baby boy on the rocks, thank you, Simon, you're thinking about how you're going to get up next time. So due to the intense media pressure, in January of 2004, the judge moves the case to San Mateo County from Modesto to say that he can have a fair trial. His defence is handled by attorneys Rick Didasto and Mark Gregarious. Garagos. He's not gregarious at all, who's already had a long history of doing high-profile cases. The trial began in June of that year, and the prosecution described Scott as an unfaithful man who wanted to end his marriage with Laci and who didn't want to be a father. This led him to plan what he would believe would be the perfect crime. According to his theory, Scott killed his wife at home by depriving her of air, i.e. strangulation or suffocation. Her body was so far decomposed, who asked me that? Someone just said how she, of course, her body was so far decomposed, she was only found as a torso, different body parts would wash up later. It was hard to tell how she died, but we know that her and the baby were found in the marina dead, and we know it was homicidal violence. And sometimes when we can't actually see exactly how someone's died due to decomp, they just put it down as homicidal violence, which is how she died. It is so sad. Her family will never have so many of the answers. Lily, better not be hitting on my Simon. So he thought he had planned the perfect crime. Now, anyone in here can just say what an idiot he is, right? Not only did you get a fishing licence for the 2 days when you'd be disposing of her body, not only did you buy a boat on the 9th on the same day you told your girlfriend your wife was dead, not only did you then take the boat out and tell police that you're on the Berkeley Marina, which is where both their bodies would be found, you literally did mad stuff. According to the theory, Scott killed his wife at home by depriving her of air. He then took the body to the garage, put her in his car and transported her to the warehouse where he kept his boat. Once there, he covered her with a tarp and umbrellas to take her along with the boat to the Berkeley Marina. Additionally, something we haven't mentioned before is the 4 anchors that he made out of the cement. We talked about them briefly, but not that he made them. Now, there was 4 anchors that he made out of the concrete, 3 of which were never found, likely because they were tied to her body. The coroner testified that they couldn't determine exactly how Laci died because what remained of her was in such poor condition. So she was found in these pieces. So I'm not going to... So the lines of where different pieces were obviously... and this is thought to be because of the water and because of the amount of time that she spent out there and the decomp, more than because she was cut up or anything like that. The coroner testified that he couldn't determine how Laci died because what remained of her was in such poor condition, and she had had a lot of exposure to salt water and marine animals. There was a lot of, I don't need to go further that. He added the baby likely separated from its mother shortly before being discovered in some kind of coffin-like birth where the body just came out. Now, he said that right up until the moment when baby Connor was found, Laci had protected her son because Laci's body was in such bad condition due to decomp, but Connor's fetus was intact. And actually, like I said today, I somehow stumbled across the pictures of Connor after he'd been found, and apart from like the decomp, he looked like a newborn baby. He was in a little baby position as well, like almost like he was still in the womb. It was really, really sad. I don't know how they came across my screen, but I have seen them. And actually, he just looked like a baby that had been in water for some period, but he'd still been inside of his mother. So he was in much better condition because she kind of protected him. And he probably likely only come out of her body a short time before being found. The defence for his part used this report and the fact there was only circumstantial evidence to argue that someone had forcibly taken Laci to perform some kind of ritual to remove the baby. But it was just seemed everything was lost. It was Amber Fry's turn to testify. Amber, firm and determined, recounted what we already know, such as how Scott had told her he was married and that Laci had died, had told her he was a widower. This, along with the recorded phone calls by the officers, was decisive for the jury. Scott was found guilty of first-degree murder for Laci and second-degree murder for his unborn son, and he was sentenced to death on November the 12th, 2004. However, that has since been overturned and he has life in prison now. They took away the death sentence. During his sentencing, the judge described his actions as cruel, indifferent, callous and heartless. In 2013, Scott's mother died of cancer. In 2018, both Laci's father and stepfather passed away in different months, leaving another great void in the family. This is Laci Peterson. Supported by his family, Scott continued to appeal his sentence and maintain his innocence. Finally, in November of 2020, the death penalty was overturned in favour of life imprisonment. In 2022, his lawyers requested a new trial after discovering the juror had lied about their background. But after everyone's relief, it was denied. Sad, there's a brilliant programme, The Murder of Laci Peterson, on Netflix. It came out last year. It's got her mum on it. I would tell everyone after this live to watch it. It really gives you an insight. It shows you some of the interviews with Scott. It shows you some of the stuff I can't get away with showing on here because it take on my live. But it shows you full interviews. It shows you loads of like home video of Laci. It's a really good watch. So we know as it was released, the new programme, 51-year-old Scott from prison, who's been in there since 2003, gave an interview. He insists on his innocence and announced another documentary telling his version of events would be out soon. And this takes us to last year, when we hear that the Innocence Project of LA, which is not tied to the actual real life Innocence Project, they're their own kind of, I don't even know how they're getting away with using the same name, but they're not connected to them at all. They have started working on Scott Peterson's case. Now, everyone was like, why are the Innocence Project working with this man? It's not the real Innocence Project. It's a small kind of group that are working out of LA. They say they have new evidence that Scott Peterson did not kill Laci or his unborn baby. They said, had the jury heard the evidence that we have, they likely would not have reached a guilty verdict. On Friday, April 18th, lawyers with the LA Innocence Project filed a petition of a writ of habeas corpus within the California Court of Appeal, seeking to overturn Scott's conviction. Hey, DJ. So let's go down to what they're saying. They are confident that his conviction will be overturned based on new evidence they claim undermines the prosecution's case entirely. They think they have evidence that Connor, the baby, died far later than what they're saying he did. So they're saying that he likely was alive some period of time, as was Laci, and that she wasn't in the Berkeley Marina the whole time. They also say that the burglary that happened across the road, they are really focusing on this, and they say that the van they used, probably, new evidence claims that there was a witness who alleges they had a conversation with the burglars about Laci seeing and confronting them. This evidence, they say, exonerates Scott Peterson because it showed Laci was alive when he left home on December 24th. And they believe the van that was used in the robbery was burnt out later on that week because she was killed in there. She says the jury did not hear about a mattress in the back of that van that was covered in bloodstains. And it shows that the prosecution suppressed evidence into the police investigation about the fire at the time. Authorities believe that Scott dumped Laci and Connor's body. The LAPD claims that new evidence alleged to show the body of Laci and Connor could not have migrated from the area where Peterson went fishing to where they were recovered. Rather, their bodies were most likely placed in the waters off the Albany Bulb, a peninsula that is accessible by car and foot. The petition challenges the prosecution's original claim that Peterson secretly bought the boat by purportedly providing evidence that Laci and Scott bought the boat together, they say now. I really don't. In May of 2024, Peterson and the LAPD won a narrow legal victory in their bids when a judge ruled a piece of duct tape found on Laci's pants can be retested for evidence. Calling the case against Peterson is highly circumstantial. The petition says that no direct physical or forensic evidence was found supporting the prosecution theory. So the two men that commit the burglary, they are known. And they came forward and begged police for a lie detector. They were like, I need a lie detector because I didn't kill this pregnant lady. Yes, we burgled the house. They gave themselves up. They were like, we burgled the house. Please do not tie us in with this investigation. Like, we didn't see no pregnant lady. So they came forward. They passed lie detectors, which isn't admissible in court. But they seemed very keen to come forward. Now, personally, if I murdered a pregnant woman, I ain't putting my name forward. I'm just being like, let's hope they don't find out who we were. But they came forward and they said to police, like, we've heard that we're being mentioned by the Peterson family as murdering this lady. We didn't, we just did a robbery. So I find that hard. I find it really hard to feel any sympathy for Scott Peterson because I think he's such a schmuck. And I use that as the kindest way I can say it. And I you know, he is he loves himself. I almost think like their whole marriage, he just thought he was too good for Laci, that he thought that she was lucky. He was like sleep. I just don't have a lot of respect for men or women actually that are like homewreckers. I just don't. And then I think, you know, you were coming home to her, you were seeing how excited she was carrying your baby, and the whole time you were at Christmas. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Renee. And the whole time you were at Christmas parties with other women, well, she's alone. Like they took death row off him because there was a misinstruction by the judge, and I just think, you know, if anyone should be on there. When I think of, I don't like to think of it too much, but when I think of Connor's body separating from his mum's and then both floating in different parts of the water and washing up on the rocks, and Laci being found in several different pieces, like she should have got told her baby. And do you know what? Laci had such a good family that you could have just left her for Amber Fry and she would have been just good. She would have been just good. Her and Connor would have been looked after. They would have been loved. She would have been fine as a single mum. She was so excited about it. She was so excited about her first Thanksgiving, her first Christmas, all those things for the baby. She didn't need this prick. And I get so fed up with these men that keep murdering their wives, like these wives who have gone to have a normal, complete lives without you. Laci loved Connor so much that she would have been good. She would have probably just get a divorce. I just don't get it. She would have moved home with her mum for a bit, like I did when I had Tegan, and then she would have met the love of her life at some point, someone who would have respected her and looked after her. Thank you, Samantha. She didn't need this prick.